Welcome, everybody, to Ask a CEO. I'm Greg Demetrio, the host for today. Also, my day job is CEO of Lorraine Gregory Communications here on Long Island, an award-winning integrated marketing company. But my passion is talking to CEOs. We can't be CEOs without the company of other CEOs. We learn from each other, we help each other, we talk to each other, and there's always insights that are shared. So whether you're in this industry or not, you're going to pick up some really good management tools from Mark today. So Mark is the president and executive officer of both Acres Capital and Exantas, a public company. Mark leads the executive management team. He's got over 25 years experience in commercial real estate finance. And in particular, he works with developers and entrepreneurs focused on innovative debt and equity solutions. Before launching Acres in 2012, Mr. Fogel served as executive at several prominent commercial real estate finance companies. He served as a senior officer at a $3.5 billion publicly traded mortgage REIT. He's a frequent panelist at commercial real estate conferences, and he's lectured at universities in a wide variety of real estate and finance topics. He was awarded the 2016 Long Island Smart CEO Future Award, and has been nominated for the prestigious Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2016. Mark holds a bachelor's degree in accounting from University of Delaware and a master's degree in real estate investment and development at New York University. Acres Capital is a commercial real estate lender that provides unique debt capital solutions for the commercial real estate industry. And he manages over $3.1 billion in assets. And in just this past July, Acres purchased Exantas, which is a publicly traded commercial real estate investment company. Quite a resume, Mark. Thank you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Greg. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So listen, before we dive in, you have a really deep resume in finance. Maybe you could tell the audience your backstory, where you came from, how you got here. What are the decisions you made to wind up in the commercial real estate industry?
Sure. Interesting question. I've been at it for 30 years now. And it all started in accounting. I went to Delaware, as you mentioned, and I got an accounting degree, thinking that that was a nice, safe place to be in the world. That's what your grandparents tell you. That's what your parents tell you. Let's go into something safe like accounting. You'll never not have a job. And that's just sort of the generation they came from. After about a year, probably less, I decided I hated accounting. I was fortunate enough, though, to work at a company that had a bunch of real estate holdings, and I got interested in this idea of having a tangible sort of asset in front of my face that I could really figure out and get excited about, because you walk down the street, that's what you see, commercial real estate, and it just a whole lot more exciting than crunching numbers on a piece of paper. So after I got that little bit of a taste of commercial real estate finance for this company that was not a commercial real estate company, I decided to take the accounting background and move over to General Growth Properties. General Growth at the time, and this is sort of the mid-1990s, was the second largest mall operator in the United States after Simon. And it was a great experience for me because I worked boots on the ground with the management team that really did all the work on the property, on these malls, from property management to leasing to marketing to operations to construction, and got me really excited about commercial real estate, because watching things happen front and center really makes you realize just how much goes into running every piece of real estate that's out there. And so with that knowledge and with that background, I decided this is where I wanted to go. I started going to NYU on a part-time basis for my master's degree in commercial real estate, and switched companies to a place called Forest City Ratner Companies, which at the time was probably the biggest developer in New York City. This is sort of the late 90s. Forest City Ratner redeveloped Times Square. They brought a lot of the big box retail into New York City, including the Targets and the Staples and you name it. They were the first landlord to do that in New York City. And they also built Metrotech Center in downtown Brooklyn, not to mention Atlantic Yards and everything.
Wow, Wow. Okay, those are some pretty heavy names you just threw out there.
Yeah. So, what I started realizing was commercial real estate's complicated. And if you really want to know it well, you've got to do a lot of different types of jobs. So I had my property management and finance. I got into development. I did that for several years. And then I realized I wanted to get into the lending side of the equation. And so I joined this sleepy little commercial real estate lending group out on Long Island called Arbor Commercial Mortgage. And Arbor at the time was just really starting up as a commercial real estate lender. They had been a residential mortgage lender prior to that. And I was brought in really to oversee assets that we were making loans on because our chairman and the company was not really used to making commercial loans. So it was a bit of underwriting, bit of asset management, bit of everything. And during my time there, we blossomed as a company. We went public in 2004. I was one of the senior guys on the team. I ran the asset management group, and we grew our portfolio from a public offering number of $400 million to almost $4 billion by the time the great financial crisis hit in 2008. And unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I had to work out a whole lot of loans during that 2008-2009 crisis. I was in charge of the portfolio, so I had 200 very complicated loans that I had to work through and try to get back to a performing type level.
Well, that brings me to my next question, because on your website it says you guys specialize in complicated and complex real estate financing.
Yes.
Me as a non-financial guy, maybe you can explain what that means exactly.
It's if you want to go get a loan on a piece of commercial real estate and it's stable and it's easy to understand, you've got an office building that's 100% leased to tenants, and it's got great cash flow, you're going to go to a bank and you're going to go get a loan, and you're going to get a cheap rate, and you're going to hold it for 10 years with that bank, and that's the way that system works. We don't play in that space. What we do is we work with borrowers and developers who are seeking out value add type opportunities, situations where the property is either down and out and it just needs to be enhanced with capital improvements, construction, renovation, or it's ground up construction altogether. And these types of situations are very complicated. None of them are alike. It's not your cookie cutter type bank loan. Every deal has to be structured differently for what the asset is and what they're doing, and for what the borrower's preferences are. We're dealing mostly with entrepreneurs. Acres lends in the middle market space, which is essentially defined as $10 to $50 million loans. And what you find in that space is generally not institutions. You find entrepreneurs who are building buildings. They're really good at what they do, but they need highly tailored and structured solutions.
Exactly. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't even know that part of the market existed.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, you wonder where some of these big developments get financed. I guess they come to you. How cool is that? So listen, so now we've all been affected by COVID. Well, are deals still happening? Did deals get put on the shelf? What was your experience during the COVID time in terms of your business?
Well, we're still in the COVID time, and they're still dealing with it. But look, in commercial real estate, people are just very concerned right now. The office market is in a place right now where it's very hard to determine what the long-term prognosis is for people working out of offices, particularly in New York City or any downtown urban location where, quite frankly, people are afraid to go back right now. And it's mostly to do with the idea that it's hard to get up elevators and, get to work in an efficient manner when you can only put two people on an elevator at a time.
Yeah.
So you'll see a lot of these Wall Street firms, they're not going back for a long time. So what does that do to the office market? Hospitality. People are just not traveling for business or conventions. That has essentially created an enormous amount of distress in the hospitality sector.
Right.
And then on the retail side, retail was distressed before COVID, and now it's especially distressed right now. On the multifamily side, that's where you're seeing the most opportunity and investment. People are really aligning themselves to go after multifamily apartments because it seems to be the safest place to be right now. So we, along with a lot of other lenders and developers and entrepreneurs, are trying to figure out the landscape on a go-forward basis and being very careful about where we put our capital.
So you touched on the uh, hospitality industry, several different industries. But on retail, you have many of the anchor stores in malls and strip centers are leaving hundreds of thousands of square feet of empty space. Do you see anybody's trying to reimagine that space and recreate it as something different?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we're targeting just those types of opportunities, several of those types of opportunities. If you think about where a lot of the retail properties lie, where they sit, where they're situated, they're generally in the best part of town. They're on the main drag. They're sort of the center of town. It's where everybody wants to be. So you've got a really good site for the most part. And we need people, good entrepreneurial developers, to identify those types of situations and reimagine them and create more value than what exists there today. And people are doing it all over the place, and we like it because the old saying goes, it's all about the location. Well, it really is in commercial real estate. If these properties happen to be located in areas where once you build something that makes sense for that marketplace, they're extremely valuable properties. So we want to target those types of situations.
Have you seen some of those big box stores being converted to a residential scenario?
Yes. So you're seeing apartment buildings becoming attached to more like they're reimagining the mall now into more entertainment type situations, restaurants, gyms, you name it. I'm also seeing some of them converted to hotels, as well as self-storage, data centers, you name it. People are figuring it out.
Okay, well, that'll keep you busy for a while.
That's right.
Right. So, Mark, we need to take a short commercial break to pay some bills. So if you don't mind, we'll just stand by and we'll be right back.
Sure.
Lorraine Gregory Communications, an award-winning agency telling personal and brand stories for more than 30 years. From strategy to production and execution, they are a true full-service agency. Check them out today at lorrainegregory.com.
All right, everybody, we're back with Mark Fogel, the CEO of Acres Capital and Exantas, which is a publicly traded company. Mark, tell us about the Acres acquisition of Exantas. How did that come about? Why does it make sense? And what does it do for the company overall?
When I developed Acres, when I founded Acres, the idea was to focus very heavily on the middle market lending space. What we do today is we focus mostly on construction, transitional type real estate, very complicated projects that don't have any cash flow. Inevitably, once our loan terms are up and the projects are complete, those deals leave our system and they go to a lender like Exantas or like an Arbor for a stabilization to perm type loan. We wanted to create a situation where everything was done in-house so that our borrowers had the opportunity to just stay with us after construction was done into a longer term type deal. And we had been thinking about that well before the Exantas situation popped up. We had been looking at doing an IPO for a mortgage REIT that looks like Exantas. And then COVID came along in March. The Exantas REIT had significant problems because of situations that occurred on their balance sheet, and the company became available. And so instead of us doing an IPO, it became a perfect opportunity for us to come in, recapitalize the company, and essentially bring it together with the Acres platform.
Makes sense. So you have it front to back, both ends of the transaction. That's really good. We've tried to do that with we've tried to do that with our company, create a situation where it's one phone call and one meeting, and we got you covered. That really makes really good business sense. I'm telling you. So listen. So because you have the public aspect of Exantas, so your shareholders are the boss. SEC is the watchdog. How demanding is it in terms of growth and compliance to operate a public company?
Well, fortunately for us, we had the opportunity to take on many of the employees that exist within the Exantas system. We added 18 people to our company out of the Exantas system, many of whom, I believe it's 12, work completely on the compliance, finance, and legal end of essentially publicly traded companies. And so a lot of that heavy lift and heavy duty burden that comes from being a publicly traded company we brought over the capability to do that situation. And quite frankly, we're used to dealing in an SEC environment where we're on the acre side a registered investment advisor. So we're always having to comply with SEC rules and audits and everything along those lines. It's a little bit more burdensome for me as the CEO of both companies, in that now I have to talk a lot more to shareholders and investors and lenders. But that's just what comes with the territory, and it's great for our company. I'm perfectly willing to do it.
Well, in your previous history, you were involved with the publicly traded real estate company, yes?
I was, when Arbor did their IPO, I was a senior officer there, and I'm used to it. I'm used to the regimen of being a publicly traded company.
I think that would be very daunting for us small business owners to even think at that level. So I'm glad we have people like you around who can handle that stuff. Is there a particular focus that Acres and Exantas are working on collaboratively? What's your meat and potatoes?
We focus very heavily on residential related assets, meaning apartment buildings, student housing, for sale condo product, and independent senior living. We just believe that the residential sector, related sector, is more liquid. It's more enticing for investors. It's more solid. The fundamentals, if you go back over the course of 30 years or 40 years, the fundamentals of loans related to these types of assets are much better than the fundamentals related to hospitality, office, and retail. So 70% of our portfolio is geared towards that. And the other reason you do that is because we're doing short-term loans for the most part. We're looking for an exit on our loans, payoff. The liquidity that's available in the space that I just mentioned is significant, in that you've got Fannie Mae and Freddie and a lot of the agency lenders, HUD, all the pension funds, all the life insurance companies are heavily geared towards residential related products. So it provides a lot of liquidity in the marketplace, gives me a safer feeling to know that my asset is well liked in the marketplace.
Interesting. So could you walk us through the process? How do deals come to you? What's your vetting process? And what's the timeline for an average deal? I know there's no average in your world, but what could you expect if we were going to go down the road of a development project and I came to you? How would that work?
Sure. Going back to the process, it all kind of started from the day we founded this company. The idea in this space is to develop a strong reputation of efficiency, creativity, intelligence, and most importantly, execution. And we've been doing that for the last 9 years. And so with that comes opportunity. And so the idea is build a big pipeline, build sort of a wide net, capture as many opportunities that come through the middle market lending space as possible. And we used to see $10 million of opportunity, $1 billion of opportunities a year. Then we saw $5 billion. Then we saw 20. Now we're seeing $50 billion of opportunities a year. Mm-hmm. So the idea was build a wide net, see as many deals as you possibly can, and then have a very rigorous screening process to get through these deals very quickly. So what you're going to see when you come to me as a developer is you're going to probably go through a broker, commercial real estate broker, mortgage broker, because what you're presenting to me is usually a very complicated project, and the brokers know what the buzzwords are and what the lenders want to see, and packages that they want to be presented. So we will get that from you. We'll usually get on a phone call with you. We'll talk about your vision, why you believe in what you're doing, what your plan is, what your experiences are. And we'll take it from there, if we like it, into a term sheet. Term sheet goes to you. You come back to us with a signed term sheet. And it's typically a 30 to 45 day underwriting process where we dig deep. We work really closely with you to understand all the numbers, the plan, the timing, your general contractor, everything that's involved with the project, until we get to what we call our investment committee memo. That goes to an investment committee, gets approved, and it usually takes 5 to 10 days to close the loan after that. So from the time you bring in a deal to the time we close it, it's probably 60 days.
Really? That does not seem overburdensome, quite frankly.
If I try to go to a bank right now, it's probably 6 months.
Say from a civilian, I would think that sounds like a pretty standard timeline.
Yeah.
So as the CEO, you command the entire operation. What's your style? What's your management style? You're hands-on, you micromanage, you let people do what they're supposed to be doing. What's Mark Vogel's style?
Yeah, in a nutshell, my style is I work for my employees. I'm here to support them. I've got a really great team. They know what they're doing. They understand how this process works. I'm here to help them get their jobs done. And so I run a very flat organization. I've worked at companies and I've taken away from a lot of those companies things that I don't like, and I've changed the environment here. We don't operate in silos. We've got the ability where the most junior guy can go talk to the most senior guy anytime they want. My door is always open. People walk in all the time, bounce things off of me. And we have team meetings once a week where everybody's involved and we're talking about everything going on in the company. And so it's just a better culture. Everybody feels like they're part of it. Everybody feels like they're contributing, and no voice is unheard in this organization.
Well, that brings me to my next question, was exactly that. Tell me about the team, but also about the culture. Culture is very important to business leaders nowadays, right? So maybe you could give me a thumbnail of what the team looks like and what the culture at Acres and Exantas is.
Sure. A lot of the senior team came from my prior life. Before Acres, I worked with many of these senior people. I picked the best of the people that I knew in the industry and brought them over here. And so what you have is a highly experienced senior team. Our top 10 people all have 20 plus years of experience in this business. I don't have to tell them what to do. They do it. They know what I expect. And, the culture really is one in which you work pretty independently, but collaboratively. You're not being told what to do every day of the week. You're not in a little silo where you can't go talk to everybody. You talk with everybody on the team. You collaborate. You come up with better ideas. And I know it's sort of a cliche-ish, but I like to surround myself with people that are really smart. I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room.
That's funny because our culture here is we don't allow any drama. All right. Everybody knows what their job is. Please do your job. And in the midst of that, we've become very collegial, become very friendly, and it's a much better environment. You cannot be creative in a toxic environment. So as a creative agency, we need to make sure of that. So that's like a religion around here. Because if somebody comes in with drama, they're out. They don't last. They're gone. See you later. Goodbye. I don't care how smart you are, how much you bring to the table. If you're going to create a situation where we have to deal with you, see ya. Have a good life, right? So, all right, Mark, so I really appreciate you being on the show today, but I would like you to answer these last two questions. Mm-hmm. And they probably sometimes dovetail. The best piece of advice you got personally and in business?
Personally, my father, when I first came out of college and I was heading on the Long Island Railroad with him into the city to get to my first job, he said to me, and there's probably a whole bevy of reasons he said it to me, but he said, "Don't ever get too comfortable where you are." And I don't know if that was him coming from the place of I stayed at a place for 30 years and I never really enjoyed what I did, or it was grow as a person, as an executive, as a leader, and to do that you need to be in a lot of different places to get really good at what you're at what you do.
I think that covers both sides, personal and business-wise. Really, I ask that question all the time, and more often than not, that's what I get. I get a piece of advice that covers both sides of the street. So thank you so much for being on the show. I'm going to give you the floor and let you tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want more information about what it is you guys do.
Sure. I can be reached at MF, as in Mark Fogel, at acrescap.com. Direct phone number is 516-336-8122. And please, if you want to talk, if you have things that you want to talk about, either from an entrepreneurial perspective or from a finance or real estate perspective, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. I speak to students from all these different universities all the time who are in real estate programs about where they might want to steer their careers in their life. So I enjoy doing that.
That's very generous, very, very generous. It's really giving back to the up and comers, which is interesting because our show is aimed at CEOs and people on their journey. So you helping on the journey is just a great thing. Thank you for that. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap. You can find us on Ask a CEO for the video versions on YouTube, or you can actually ask a CEO on any of the podcast channels, streaming podcasts. We're all over. We appreciate everybody to subscribe and share far and wide. So thank you, everybody. That's a wrap for today. And Mark, thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.